that seem to make us resent one another. Our marriage is early on, but honestly, it is miserable, and we fight all the time. I feel like I'm always the one that ends up apologizing, and I am the bad guy. And I resent her for doing this frequently.
Hey, Anonymous. Sounds like you got a lot of stuff going on. Sorry to hear that you're struggling so much with your wife. You are newlyweds, and it doesn't seem that you really enjoy the honeymoon phase of your relationship. Honeymoon phase, it being you ignore all the red flags because of the physical connection you have to one another. Some of the couples that I work with, they fight to feel connected, and it seems as though that you may be having a similar situation. And when we fight to connect, that means we're fearful of intimacy. So what I'm afraid of when I work with some couples that they have this stable ambiguity, we call it, that if I help you with your fighting, you'll have no way to connect because you don't know how to be intimate with each other. And that's something that I typically help couples with, is getting those walls down and establishing connection with each other. So before we start, I want to say that this problems that you're having with the arguing, it's not your fault. Okay, it's not our faults when we're in relationships and we're arguing and fighting with our partners, is because we typically learn our relationships from our parents, and just reflect back upon what you saw growing up, and that'll give you some kind of insight into why you're having challenges. If you had parents that argued a lot, we kind of model them and we see what they did and it's like, that works, so you go with that. So what I do is I help couples realize that, and then I help them unpack that and unwind that, and then move into a place where they can develop relationship skills and then use those moving forward. And the biggest component, or one of the biggest components in couples counseling, is determining your dance. And you're asking, like, what's the dance? It's a dysfunctional dance that you and your partner do when you trigger each other, and you do one thing. The more you do one thing, the more she does one thing, or the more he does one thing. And the more you each do that, the more you escalate, the more triggered you become. And the more you say things that you kind of regret afterwards. And that's the dysfunctional dance. So what I help couples with is realize that dance, because the dance is the same argument over and over again. You guys react and trigger to the same things constantly. We just plug in a different problem. Okay? Different problems, same dance. So I help fix the dance, and then the problems go away. Hope this helps. So here we go. So your partner profile. So your wife, she seems to be really unhappy, depressed. You mentioned she drinks. When people drink, they're usually using that as a way to escape their thoughts, escape reality, to numb their current life situation. And I think she's struggling with depression. I think you reported that you are too. And when we drink and we use substances, that's one of what I call a misery stabilizer. And what a misery stabilizer is something we do as partners, we turn to instead of turning to our partner. So some people use careers instead of careers as a misery stabilizer. Careers, social media, work, sometimes children. So when we're feeling emotional or need connection, we turn to that instead of turning to the one we love, our partner. And there's a million reasons why we don't turn to our partner. So those are misery stabilizers. And I think, like I said, your wife may be using alcohol as one. And I think there may be a part of you that's using school as one, because you mentioned you were in grad school. So she drinks most likely to keep her thoughts from taking over. And she also uses it as courage to stand up for herself, to tell you how you're not meeting her expectations. You mentioned she wants you to try harder by showing you more love. So, a couple of ways to approach this. First of all, if she is love dependent, and a love dependent person is like being in a relationship with somebody that needs constant validation, constant, reinforcement that you love them. And the hard part about it is it's that's not sustainable. There's no amount of love that you can show them that will fill that deep void inside them that they need filled. And a part of that is mostly coming from their childhood, that they never got the attention they need, they never felt loved, they never felt praised by a parent. So when they get in relationships, they're looking to get and relive that and get that back. And when they're love dependent, it is exhausting because it's not sustainable. Because I would imagine that no matter what you do, she says that you're not showing her love. Because if it's not constant, if you take your foot off the gas for 1 second, done. You are not loving her. You are a terrible human being. Blah blah blah, and the dance goes on and on and on. So that's if she's love dependent. So what she really needs is, if she's love dependent, she needs to start finding a way to love herself, and therapy would be very helpful for that. And she's probably most likely got self-esteem. Okay. And the second part of that is that if she is not love dependent, then it's most likely that you may be emotionally unavailable. So emotionally unavailable means you're walled off. And you may be walled off because you grew up in a household that was either nobody talked about their feelings, everybody pushed things down and held it in, or you grew up with parents that were really suffocating and boundaryless. And as an adult, if you feel that suffocation, like similar to what your wife is doing to you, like constantly needing you, you're kind of running, running to school, avoiding the conflict, avoiding that connection because you felt it was icky as a child and you couldn't do anything about it. You couldn't say no. But as an adult, we have power. We can say, no, I don't want that. So there's a lot of men out there that are walled off. Okay. Not talking about my feelings. And that is not relational. And when you have a wall up, you cannot be intimate. So some of the things she needs from you right now, she needs you to listen to understand. And listening to understand, we'll get into that in intervention one. She wants you to prioritize her needs. She wants her to be the most important thing in your life. And maybe she feels like you think school is. And I think there's a component of this that if you're feeling attacked, what you need to do is you need to start standing up for yourself with soft power, soft love. Okay? And there's so many ways we can do that without avoiding conflict and without yelling at our partner. So your dance. Knowing what I know, very little, but it seems as though your dance, if you guys were in my couples counseling session, your dance is the more she doesn't feel heard, the more frustrated she becomes. Okay? And the more frustrated she becomes, the more she criticizes you, and the more critical she is, the more resentful and withdrawn you become. And the more resentful and withdrawn you become, the more alone and depressed she feels and drinks. That's the dance. So if I was working with you as a couple, that's what we're unwinding, okay? We're going to find ways to stop that dance. And this is what I'm going to try to help you out with these 5 interventions that I got for you.
Her issue with me is that she just doesn't understand me. And it's an extension of that. She says we keep fighting about the same things, circumstances, because I'm not listening to her in the moment, or because I forgot a tip, a point that she told me would have helped us in fights. Additionally, since we got married, I started an intense grad school, and she now says she's unhappy and alone with these issues a lot. And I'm her bitter stressor because of our relationship issues.
Intervention number one, lack of communication. Okay, lack of communication. Every one of my couples that I've seen, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, that's one of the big problems in the relationship. We don't communicate. But what it is you are communicating. You're just not communicating in a healthy way. You're not hearing her. She's not hearing you. And you fight. And when we fight, our emotions take over and we're not rational. So we can't hear what the other one's saying. And when we're fighting, we're just waiting for the other one to stop so we can either defend or rebuke or retaliate and give them our perspective or our side. So that's the biggest problem with relationships in this world. And it's not your fault because, yes, we learned it from our parents. We didn't get taught in school how to communicate. So this is what I teach every one of my couples. And if they get nothing else, they learn how to communicate. And what it is, it's listening to understand. So anonymous, we listen with our ears and our heart, not our brain and our mouth, because our brain and our mouth will always steer us in the wrong direction. It's like when my wife is telling me that she hates her job, I'm listening to her, and as soon as she finishes, I'm saying, go put your resume on Indeed. We'll find another job. Let's go put out applications somewhere. But it's like, hey, dummy, that's not what I want. I know I can do that. And that makes them feel bad. All she wants to hear is say, wow, it sounds like you had a really frustrating day. If there's anything you need help or support, I'm here because I love you. That's it. It's not rocket science. Stop fixing. Stop problem solving. If your partner, your wife, needs her problem solved, then she'll say, I need help. That's when you put your tool belt on and you go into fixing. Other than that, you just validate her feelings. Okay? That's all listening is.
My issue with her is that she drinks. This has been a problem for almost 2 years now. It used to be a lot worse, a bottle or more every night, but it's gotten a lot better, a glass or two about 3 times a week. However, I feel like the second she starts drinking wine, regardless of how much she drinks, she starts treating me badly and I have to walk on eggshells around her. We both acknowledge these issues and have been trying to help our relationship, especially since with the wedding. We have weekly check-ins, Friday night dates, which weekly switch up who plans it, and we try to check in with each other regularly throughout the days.
Intervention number 2. This is another one that seems so simple, but it's so hard for couples to do, because once we're escalated, once our emotions are heightened, we go into what I call our adaptive child and protector, and that part of us cannot be rational. That part of us helped us survive our childhood. Okay? So taking a time out is how we go back and return back to baseline. We emotionally regulate ourselves. So what I need you guys to start doing is when you feel that tenseness, where you feel that in your body, whether it's your throat, your neck, when you feel that anxiety, that frustration, that stress, whatever you're feeling, that's when you stop. That's when you say, time out. I ask couples to use a code word, pineapple, elephant, whatever, to stop them in their tracks. And when you stop in the tracks, whoever called the timeout, whoever was feeling anxious, hey, hun, I'm feeling a little frustrated right now with this conversation. Would it be okay if we took 30 minutes and regrouped, and then took some time, regrouped, and then come back and re-engage in the conversation? And 9 out of 10, well, in the beginning, that's 50% of the time that works, because the other partner's already riled up and they're not willing to stop. So they want to keep going. So I reinforce this in each session that When somebody calls a timeout, it's time to take a timeout, because nothing is going to get resolved fighting and arguing. Okay? Because we're not rational. We're not thinking from prefrontal. We're thinking from back of our head. So it ends up, if you can visualize this, it's like two 9 or 10-year-olds arguing with each other. Nothing's good that's going to happen with that, right? Okay.
So I'm just so unhappy and depressed every time an issue comes up. I always end up saying something wrong, which I'll admit and apologize for either then or later. But then I feel like the fight becomes all about how I said something mean, even if I wasn't the only one. I generally feel like I'm the only one apologizing. It makes me cry all the time after we fight. I've said some messed up things in our fights and feel bad about them. And I also think I've done a lot better about that. I'm not really sure what to do anymore. I love her and I want our marriage to work. I'm just so exhausted of the fighting. It's almost every day, and I can't handle the relationship stress on top of my school.
Intervention number 3. Okay, dude. Sorry. You mentioned you can't afford couples counseling. Okay. And you said you read some books. You are not going to read your way out of these relationship problems. No way. Maybe this video, a couple more, subscribe to my channel. Oh, that's a hint. Maybe with some of these things, if you and your wife watch them, maybe you can get some traction. But you really need a professional that's going to really help you guys, take down these walls and, sort through some of these challenges you guys are having. You're not going to do it on your own. It's going to be really hard. I have a lot of couples that come to me after months and months of trying, and they're almost on divorce's door, and they say, well, we tried everything, and that's why we're here. And it's like, I would like scream from the rooftops, don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until there's so much freaking resentment out there, because if you build up so much resentment, divorce is so much easier to, see hope in, because you have nothing else left. So I try to losing words here. I do that. So I try to help couples understand that don't wait until it's too late, because there's always hope until there's not. Is that fair? And so you said you really can't afford couples counseling, and I'm reading that statement say we really can afford couples counseling, because I'll tell you, what's cheaper, a therapist or a divorce attorney? I know in the long run, divorce is a lot more expensive. So I think you guys should sit down and really have a conversation around this, because spending, and most therapists take insurance too, so there's that, unless you don't have insurance. So you need to sit down with your wife and really talk to her about this, because this is really important. And if your relationship is this important, it's worth whatever money it costs to get this resolved.
All of this stuff I've talked or tried to talk about to her, and we really can't afford couples counseling. We tried books, but didn't make it that far. It feels like we both are so unhappy with each other. I should add, she wants me to try hard to do things for her every day to make her feel special, whether big or small. And I understand this, and I have been undisputably better about it, but it hasn't been enough. I'm reaching a point where I don't want to do this stuff because I feel like it's not helping, and I'm just resenting her even more.
Number 4. You reported being depressed. Okay. See intervention number 3 about therapy. You should be in therapy yourself, talking through some of these issues. You're in grad school. I get it. Was there, done that. Really stressful. So you should be in therapy yourself. And I think part of your depression is, so how depression works is we can, for the most part, a majority, we can heal our own depression. But how we can heal it if life circumstances is keeping us in the depression. So it's like we can't heal trauma if we're still being traumatized. That same thing with depression. So if we're still in a situation where it makes us unhappy and sad about our lives, how are we going to heal? It's like resentment. I can't stop resenting my partner if they keep doing the things that I'm resenting them for, right? Okay.
How can I get past my negative views of her, and how can we stop fighting? Thank you for taking the time.
Intervention number 5, resentment. Pay attention here, because resentment is one of the biggest problems in relationships. We hold on to the past, and that impacts our present. And resentment is like a poison that slowly eats away. It's like acid, and it slowly eats away at our relationship until we've both had enough and we're ready to cut our losses and move on. That's how toxic relationship is that's how toxic it is to a relationship. And a lot of couples don't understand that. They hold on to this thing from the past. Well, they did X, Y, and Z. And well, we don't have time machines to go back and fix that. So what you can either do is you can find a way to make peace with it, accept it. One partner needs to take accountability for it and move on, or you don't. And if you can't, you should end the relationship. And I've told couples, you guys can't, let go of your resentment for one another. I'll never let it go. It's like, well, then our work here is done. I can't help you anymore. Because no matter what skills I teach you, no matter how much work we do on contracts and problem solving and the dance, all it takes is for one partner to do one thing to disappoint the other partner, and they'll think back to the past and they'll say, you always, you never, and they'll go into these absolutes, and the relationship will never grow. Okay, so resentment is one thing that you guys need to sort out. So what I typically have couples write down all their resentments, every resentment that you have for your partner since you've been together. And then what we do is we typically take the biggest one and we do the work on that. And typically all our partner is looking for is us to show some accountability, apologize, and as long as we're not doing the same things over and over again, that's usually enough. Especially if they love us enough, they'll be in a position, hopefully, to let it go. And if they can't let it go, it's on them. All we can do is apologize, take responsibility for it. And if they can't let it go, then maybe that's the end of the relationship. Okay? You're going to say, oh, Richie, what about cheating? It's like, okay, I can do 100 videos or 200 videos just on my experience with couples and infidelity. And we're not going to cover that there because that is something that takes a while to unpack, especially with resentment, because there's trust there. And if we don't trust our partner, that's a big problem. Okay, so the positives. It seems like you really love her. And if you do really love her and she really loves you, find a way to get into couples counseling. Start with these things until you find somebody, because everybody's got a wait list. And what I love about what you're doing is you have date nights. That's fantastic. I encourage that. When I have couples that come in that are on divorce's door, okay, let's see if we can go back to square one. How were you when you first met in that courtship phase when you both were marketing yourselves and you weren't looking at each other's red flags? That's what we need to go back to see if there's still a connection there. Okay, and what doing that is, it's putting the resentments aside. So I love the date night. I love the check-in. I encourage my clients to check in daily. 15 minutes, 30 minutes to check in. And what we do on that check-in, we don't talk about anything that's stressful. We don't talk about our jobs. We don't talk about finances. We don't talk about chores. We just talk about things that, whatever, talk about the weather, talk about what you watched on TV, talk about the news. I don't care what you talk about. Probably don't talk about politics if you're on opposite ends of the spectrum, because I don't advise that at all, because that's stressful. So talk about things that don't stress out. So I hope these interventions helped. I wish you the best of luck. And if anybody's got any comments, if they have some resentment in their relationship, or just have some questions, comment below. And if you like the channel, I'm hoping to, stop posting a lot of videos to bring more awareness to relationships and couples counseling and how helpful it can be. Please let me know. Thanks. I'll see you on the next one.